and Glenn were discussing off air, it was pretty obvious that the decision was going to be made. The fact that it's been made quite so soon after the game, I thought he might have let the dust settle a couple of hours, but this chairman certainly doesn't mess about.
What was the point, Glenn, where you felt there was no way back?
Well, I think when he left the stadium. I don't know if he left the stadium, he might have gone into a box.
He went into his box, actually, didn't leave the stadium.
To leave his seat there after 60 minutes, it weren't like it was 85 minutes. I think that was a statement in itself, really, in many ways. But like Peter, I'm surprised he's done it so quickly after the game. Let the dust settle and let Ange sort of have a little bit more pride and going out. But this is football. Eight games. If you're a manager, that's no time at all. It really isn't. Even though results are not going great.
Do you think it's a ludicrous amount of time to be making a change, Peter, after 8 games in charge?
I think, yeah. I mean, you'd expect more. I mean, it's really difficult for Ange, but I do think the results were there, and I think the way the crowd were, there was a kind of almost a toxic atmosphere before the game. They've all left the stadium. I do think it was beginning to be a real problem, and I don't think results would have got better as quickly. It's probably the right decision, although it does seem incredibly unfair after just 8 games. But even when he was hired, I mean, his beliefs and his philosophy was so different to what Nottingham Forest had done so well in the previous season. I think everyone in football was a little bit surprised by the appointment being chalk and cheese. It was so different to Nuno, and they had great success under Nuno.
Given that, do you think he was almost doomed from the start?
No, not from the start. I mean, even today they should have been and could have easily been 2-0 up. With the chances, that's down to the players. Ange can't be blamed for that, the misfiring in front of goals. So they get a 2-2 draw out of this, or they win 2-1, he wouldn't have been sacked. It would have been a little bit of a footing to then a stepping stone to try and grow and get more confidence, get the crowd back on his side. They're the small things. They're the dividing line. So whoever comes in at this football club as manager knows he's got 8 games. He's going to be given 8 games, is he, to make a success of it? And that doesn't seem right to me. It really doesn't.
I do also think it's a great job. It's a side in Europe at the moment with fantastic players, and it's a great job for someone to get their teeth into.
For who? Who will be getting that job? Obviously, there's been all of those stories about Sean Dyche during the international break. There's obviously lots of reasons for that. He wouldn't need any compensation. He lives close by. He's got Ian Woan and Steve Stone, club legends, alongside him. So you can see why those links are being made. But do you think he would be a suitable replacement?
Yeah, I do. I think it's whether or not he can get a long-term deal. I mean, I've worked with Sean Dyche, and I absolutely love working with him, and Ian Woan and Steve Stone as well are absolute legends at the club. If the club needs a lift of any point, which it probably does at the moment, those 2 players coming in alone is going to lift the spirits of this place. Absolute legends of Nottingham Forest, and Sean Dyche has a proven track record in the Premier League, and they're in a situation now where you're looking towards the bottom rather than the top. Who better to steer the ship than Sean Dyche?
They could end up in the bottom 3 this weekend. Would that be seen as a sort of firefighting appointment if that was made?
Well, I don't think Sean would look at that if he came. I think it's an obvious choice, the people that he's got and bringing him with him to get the crowd back on the side straight away, instantly. Whoever comes in, the one criteria, they've got to get results, and they've got to get them quick. Now, that is pressure in itself. And if you don't get them quick, how long is the owner going to give them? Again, is it 8 games? So, Sean would know, or whoever comes in would know, actually, we're up against it. Result-wise, we've got to get results. And, if he goes 3 or 4 games without a win, how long does that one last again? So there's no continuity with what the owner's actually done. But it's within his own rights to do it. Of course, it's his football club. But I'm thinking from a manager's point of view, it's impossible to... He hasn't had a pre-season. Amorim kept saying when he went into Man United, I need a pre-season, I need a pre-season. Well, he's had a pre-season, and perhaps, you haven't seen that much change. That's a different story. And he's still in his job.
Absolutely. And said in his press conference yesterday, where he was making a very passionate defence of himself, that talked about the way he's viewed, which prism he's viewed with, and said, I don't fit in, not here or anywhere. Do you think he is sort of judged differently, unfairly? Why do you think he said that?
No, I just think last season, I think there was a lot of frustration, certainly from Tottenham fans, about not being adaptable, not changing, and maybe not seeing certain things in games where it felt like it was crying out for them just to stop going forward, and the high line was obviously something that was very well documented. I think that's just where the frustration was creeping in. Was we were losing games, Spurs were losing games, and continued to play the same way. And I think he's come in here and kind of stuck to those beliefs, a very possession-based game, and all of Forest's success of last season. I don't want to keep harping on about last season, but was built on the counter-attack. I mean, he didn't play Hudson-Odoi today. Obviously, Elanga was sold. But that pace in those wide areas and the counter-attacking football was the reason they're successful. And obviously there was none of that today. It was very central. It was very congested. Although they had chances, it was very much of Chelsea creating their own problems, really.
Well, there's much more to come from us, much more to come from the City ground after that news. Straight after that 3-0 defeat by Chelsea here against Nottingham Forest, that Ange Postecoglou has been sacked. Welcome to Extra Time, live from the City ground, where Ange Postecoglou has been sacked as Nottingham Forest boss after 40 days in charge following a 3-0 defeat to Chelsea. Some of your reaction on social media here. This was after the game. He's gone. Our season starts on Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. Our Forest will be back. And Dale says, in all seriousness, this should have happened before the international break. Now a manager like Dyche has got to hit the ground running. And the club deserves as much criticism for this as Ange does. He was totally the wrong guy for the job. Dyche will stabilise, but will he take us up a level? Probably not. Do you see the point from Jay there that the club, the owner, have to take some responsibility, saying it was the wrong appointment in the first place? Is that an admission that it was a gamble and it didn't pay off?
Yeah, I think any manager's a gamble. You don't know. If you could look into your crystal ball, it'd be an easy job.
But you can make a very calculated gamble, I guess.
I think he hasn't thought about the football side. What has got them such a good season, got them into Europe last year. Now he's looking at somebody that wants to play a bit more open, attractive, so-called attractive football, totally different. And now Sean Dyche might be a little bit more in the middle. Now he's going back that way, maybe, or he might just say, "Look, I need somebody who's going to keep it to survive, and we're going to play that way, whatever way." But at the end of the day, I think somebody there made a really good point in the sense that you got the international break. Why now, whoever comes in, if it's Sean Dyche or anyone, they've got a European game to prepare for.
A big one against Porto.
Exactly. They're right in the middle of it, and they've got to start winning matches. Points and winning matches are more important than performance or spells in games where we had them on the rack, we didn't take our chances. This club at the moment has got to get results.
Football's a mental game as well. I think if you go into Europe in that game with Ange Postecoglou in charge, I feel like it's breeding negativity around the place and through the players as well. If a new manager gets announced before that game, I think you go into it, it's a kind of party atmosphere. It's very much a new start, new beginning. I think the players will take to that. I think the crowd will take to it, and I do think it will put things in a different mindset and a more positive frame of mind.
Do you think those first two results in Europe, especially the Midtjylland one here, that was supposed to be such a special night for the club, Glenn, have played a big part? Because at least if there had been positive results there, you could say there's a possible trophy at stake here.
That's true, yeah. And it was a bit of a game that surprised us. They're at home. But also, I think the Swansea away, they were 2-0 up. They lost 3-2. The game against Sunderland here at home, where everyone's expecting them to win, they lost at home again. So it was something that was happening that was going down. The other problem that Ange had is because Nuno did so well last year. They got European football, everything started, and then suddenly, for whatever it wasn't football reasons why Nuno was sacked or left the club, without a doubt. So, Ange was going in on the back foot a little bit, whereas Sean Dyche, whoever comes in, is going to be like what Peter's just explained, spot on. There's a new energy. It's going to be like we've got our Forest back, blah, blah, blah. But, it's on a positive note instantly. And Ange never had that, really.
And do you think Sean Dyche, it should be him or certainly someone in that mould who is going to play that style of football with this squad who've been so used to playing that way under Nuno?
Yeah, I think we can see the odds on it now. I mean, he's strong favourite, Sean Dyche. It all adds up. I think the club. He has an affinity with the club. He lives in the area. I know Sean Dyche personally, and this would be a huge honour for him to accept the challenge here. I think it's certainly something that he'd always had one eye on. Certainly Ian Moan and Steve Stone, who worked with him, would certainly have their eye on it. I think that the crowd will take to it because it's someone that they believe almost like one of their own, or a group of their own, if you like. So I certainly
a lot of bonus points early.
I think it's a lot of bonus points, and without doubt. And he's proven himself in the Premier League, and he's out of work, and everything seems to add up.
Yeah, Steven Gerrard in there as well. He obviously said it wasn't the right time for the Rangers job. Also Marco Silva. Now the owner had him at Olympiacos and is known to be a big fan of him, but he wouldn't be available to the end of the season, Glenn, and I presume that the club will not want to pay a big payout for someone given the rules that they have to work under with the UEFA competition.
Yeah, exactly, and I don't think that's something that would happen. I really don't. I think he's building something there at Fulham as well. So, at the end of the day, I think it's the bookies have got it right.
I heard Rafa Benitez as well last week, but he's not on those odds. What about him as an option?
Well, he seems to pop up at a lot of clubs, doesn't he? And not on the list. And
it's not a list. It's not a list without Rafa on it.
Why
is
not,
it?
Glenn?
Mine's on the other page, round the back.
What would you do, honestly, though, Glenn? What would you do? Like, you're only going to get 8 games. I mean, what?
Exactly.
I mean, could you?
No,
it's a great job for someone.
It's a great job. I mean, this club has got the history, blah, blah, blah. It's fantastic. You watched the video before with all the goals going in and Trevor Francis scoring in the final. Yeah, it's the history of this club is wonderful. And last year, I think everyone outside of Nottingham Forest Football Club were happy to see them playing so well and getting back into Europe, and everything was hunky-dory. This place was an unbelievable atmosphere. This can happen in football, It's the only business. You come here and the place was absolutely rocking in certain
best season for 30 years, and then you go from that to this so quickly.
It's toxic at times. It was like get the manager out, what they were singing in the last game, and it was... It's the only business in the world that can work like that. It's so difficult nowadays in modern day management with a manager that's ended up with 8 matches. That's ridiculous.
Do you feel like whoever comes in are now going to be faced with a group of players who are sort of in that limbo land between 2 different styles of football now? I know it's only been 8 games, or do you think it will be quite quick to, as one article I read put it, reboot to sort of factory settings for Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, I think certainly if Sean Dyche comes in, obviously everything that he's ever done is built on a really good defensive structure, which was exactly what they had last season. And I think they've still got the players to play in that kind of counter-attacking manner. Obviously Hudson-Odoi for me today was the best player for Nottingham Forest when he came on. And I think if you get a tune back out of him, get players in the right positions in right areas, and still have that solid foundation. I think that's exactly what Sean Dyche would build if he came in.
Although the fans didn't like that when he came on, but that was probably more to do with Douglas Luiz going off. That didn't go down well either.
No, I think there was a lot of things that the crowd weren't happy about. But for me, Hudson-Odoi has been what last year was one of their best players, and how he hasn't had as many minutes as he should have. For me, like Peter says, he comes on and he looked like a player. Funny enough, he started at Chelsea, who could play in the opposing side. He could have played for Chelsea, and no one would have said he wouldn't have been out of sorts. And that's how good he was today when he came on. He affected the game in such a positive way. But no, I think whoever comes in here, they've got to have a clarity. They've got to hit the road running, and that means having a real clarity. We're going to play this way, and this is what we're going to do, because if not, if you get caught, like you said, in between 2 stools, you've got no chance. So if it is Sean Dyche, he'll come in with clarity. That's one thing.
And he's got a big job to get points, and get points quickly, because Nottingham Forest 17th at the moment, just 1 point above the relegation zone. Are we already there in talking about them being in a relegation battle?
Well, yeah, 17th in the league.
But this early in the
played an extra
season.
game. You've got to say they're in the mix there. But I think there's 3 worse sides in the Premier League than Nottingham Forest. I genuinely think that. I think you get a bit of positivity around the football club. I think you'll see them certainly
start, isn't it?
climb pretty well. Yeah, but yeah, it's not.
Also, Bournemouth away as well, a tough game. Manchester United in there as well, Peter.
But you said it today, like that is tough, right? You got 1, 2, 3. Yeah, potentially you could win against Sturm Graz and Leeds, but then again Liverpool.
Enzo, as you come into the dressing room to talk to us, we've just heard the news that Ange Postecoglou has been sacked as the Nottingham Forest manager. I just wanted to start with your reaction to that.
I feel really sorry. It's always a shame. But we said many times that unfortunately it's a business where you need to win games. Otherwise, for all of us, is the same consequence.
Or what did you make of the way they performed against your Chelsea side today?
I think they were first half very good. They tried to play their game. We struggled a little bit first half. Second half, I think we were much better. And at the end, we scored 3 goals. We could score probably a few more, and we deserved to win the game.
It was a much improved second half performance from your side. What do you think that was down to? What was the biggest difference?
Well, first of all, yeah, I think second half we were better also because we expect them to be more aggressive in the first half. Then we changed something tactically, and again, overall, I think we deserve to win the game.
A deserved win today for Chelsea, Glenn. It sets them up very nicely for that Ajax game as well on Wednesday.
Yes, it certainly does. Yeah, I mean, they've had a few players out as well, key players, but they've managed to overcome an away game. They haven't been too good away from home this season, but there was glimpses, particularly second half. They just grew in the game and they got the confidence with the goal. Once the goal went in, it was a different Chelsea. And looking at that team, it felt to me it needed them to get their noses ahead to actually feel comfortable in this game. They were never comfortable in the first half, but I think the substitutes really played a big part and calmed them down in that second half. And when they did get the 1-0 up, they knew that the crowd were going to turn a little bit. The apprehension turned in here, and they went on and they got stronger and stronger.
Do you think they're just quietly going about their business, not being discussed in that conversation with Liverpool and Arsenal, but are certainly right there and have the quality, even though they are so young?
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, they've built something at Chelsea. I think they've got some fantastic young players. If you look, ripped the whole midfield out of the team. Really, defensively, they had injuries again today, and Cole Palmer's such an influence for them. So. If they continue to win games as easy as that was away from home in the Premier League today, with the amount of injuries they've had, they're certainly in with a shot.